Pizowell Home Video.
Dr. Alec Holland was a brilliant scientist who just developed a new species, equal parts animal and plant, capable of feeding the hungry the world over. But then the evil Dr. Arcane and his medley of mercs enter the picture, inadvertently turning Holland into Mother Nature's most dedicated crusader. So allow me to paint a picture for you. It's the early 80s, long before superhero movies based on comic book properties inundated cinemas and streaming services, and extended universes mercifully didn't exist. Sure, there'd been the cheesy Batman and Wonder Woman television series, and Richard Donner's Superman and Superman 2 had both been huge hits at the box office. But we're talking about Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman here. Superhero A-listers. Who'd be interested in making a movie about, of all superheroes, Swamp Thing? A superhero who lives in the swamp, who is made up of the swamp. And who are we going to get to direct this movie? I mean, we want it to be as accessible to general audiences as possible and kid-friendly. See what that guy who directed The Last House on the Left and The Hills Have Eyes is doing. Again, the 80s. And to quote one of the greatest lyricists of our time or any other,
cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Swamp Thing is a movie very much of its time and place. A bit of a time capsule, in fact. If you're in my age range, chances are you've seen it more than a few times. It was constantly on cable television, and it's the kind of movie that if you caught it playing while channel surfing, you just had to watch it. So while nostalgia and a deep appreciation of cheese weighs heavily in Swamp Thing's favor for me, I shudder to imagine the reaction to the film from peeps raised on the slick, soulless, highly sterilized, and CGI'd to the nth degree Marvel movies.
What a great honor to be able to introduce for the first time ever any...
Swamp Thing sports a great cast, including Adrienne Barbeau, Ray Wise, Louis Jourdan, and David Hess. Yes, David Hess was in a comic book movie. The hits just keep on coming, and they don't end there. Adrienne Barbeau steals the show as Cable. She's smart, she's tough, she's hot as a firecracker, and cool as a cucumber. You know, typical Adrienne Barbeau stuff. Louis Jourdan is perfectly cast as the evil Dr. Arcane. He's the kind of guy who'll wine you, dine you, and then use you as a guinea pig for an experimental serum because he needs human test subjects. I also love the character of Jude, played by Reggie Batts. He's this kid who's just minding his own business one day, running his family's country store, when Adrienne Barbeau walks in, followed shortly thereafter by Arcane's armed cronies. Dick Durock deserves a gold medal for his portrayal of Swamp Thing. I can only imagine his delight when he first laid eyes on the Swamp Thing costume. And I'm sure the extreme heat and swampy conditions weren't an issue at all, particularly when you take into account that it appears as though the Swamp Thing costume was made out of green trash bags. Durock still managed to work through it all and reprised the role in the 1988 sequel and the television series. The original Swamp Thing television series, mind you, not the whatever. Craven certainly didn't have the biggest budget to work with here, and it shows. Swamp Thing's costume isn't the only one that looks cheap. Just wait until you see the thing that Swampy engages in fisticuffs with at the end. What the hell is this? Another odd thing about Swamp Thing is its score. For some reason, I can't help but think of Friday the 13th, a bloody body count slasher, whenever watching Swamp Thing, a superhero comic book movie. Maybe it's because Harry Manfredini did the score for both. And let's just say he may have plagiarized his own work here. Now, I've always been a much bigger fan of the sequel, 1988's The Return of Swamp Thing. But this movie still has a special place in my heart. It's an odd duck when it comes to superhero movies. I mean, how many superhero movies have a European cut that features quite a bit of nudity? I'm sure you're aware of Adrienne Barbeau's infamous topless swamp bathing scene. It comes out of nowhere, goes on for quite a while, and the capper is when the camera pans over to reveal that Swampy, like some kind of jolly green pervert, is just watching the whole thing. You know, Swampy, I would ask whether that's a stick in your pants or if you're just happy to see me, but I can't help but notice you're not wearing any pants. And speaking of pants, David Hess's character literally pulls a venomous snake out of his pants at one point. I can't be the only person who finds the humor in that. Of course, Miss Barbeau's infamous scene and another one involving a nude belly dancer were only intended for European audiences. This cut was also available on DVD, and for the longest time, fetched a hefty sum on the second-hand market. The MVD Rewind collection has come through like the heroes that they are, delivering us not only both cuts of the movie, but both cuts in 4K. First, how cool is the old-school CED design of the slip, sleeve, and included poster? Very nice, MVD. Very nice. As for the 4K picture quality, this is without doubt the best that Swamp Thing has ever looked. This release provides Swamp Thing with a high level of detail and clarity. As for the audio, we get a DTS HD Master 2.0 audio track, which I thought sounded crystal clear and full-bodied. I'd give both the picture quality and the sound quality on this release a 4.5 out of 5. As far as extras are concerned, first up we get Tales from the Swamp with Adrienne Barbeau at 16 minutes and 9 seconds in length. Ms. Barbeau discusses falling in love with the script, how the lack of budget affected pretty much everything. She discusses not being a horror fan despite her being identified with the genre, how difficult the shoot was due to the location and the budgetary constraints. She discusses working with Wes Craven and how lovely he was, her infamous nude scene, how upset she was with her hair, makeup, and wardrobe in the film, the fandom, and much more. Next we have Hey Jude with actor Reggie Batts. It's 14 minutes and 43 seconds in length. Mr. Batts discusses how he got cast as Jude, being a big fan of the comics, how great Wes Craven was, how cool Adrienne Barbeau was, hanging out with Dick Durock, David Hess, and Nicholas Worth, and much more. Next we have That Swamp Thing with Lynn Wine, creator of Swamp Thing. It's 13 minutes and 20 seconds in length. Mr. Wine discusses the genesis of Swamp Thing and the character's evolution in the comics. He discusses how much he liked the casting of Ray Wise and Dick Durock, visiting the set of Swamp Thing, the future of Swamp Thing, and much more. Next we have Swamp Thing, designing DC's main monster, an interview with production designer Rob Wilson King. It's 20 minutes and 34 seconds in length. Mr. King discusses working with Wes Craven and how collaborative he was, working in the swamp, the cast, hiring locals to work on the film, working on the sequel with Jim Wynorski, and more. Next we have From Krug to Comics, how the mainstream shaped a radical genre voice with writer and critic Kim Newman. It's 17 minutes and 36 seconds in length. We get the original theatrical trailer, 4 photo galleries, and 2 audio commentaries, the first with Wes Craven and the second with makeup effects artist William Munns. This is hands down the definitive Swamp Thing release from the fine folks over at MVD Rewind. We get both cuts of the movie here. The 4K picture quality is fantastic, and we get extras from both the Scream Factory and 88 Films releases ported over. If you are a fan of Swamp Thing, then this release absolutely needs to be in your collection. If you're a fan of Swamp Thing, please let me know your thoughts on the film down in the comments section below. And while you're down there, let me know which cut of Swamp Thing do you prefer. And I think I already know that answer. If you like this video, please leave it a thumbs up and share it on social media. If you're not following me on social media, those links are in the description. As always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Take care, and until next time, peace. A huge thank you to all my patrons and channel members for your generosity and support. Become a patron today and get early access to videos, have a say in what content appears on my channel, join me for monthly live streams, exclusive watch parties, and more. Become a channel member today and get access to exclusive badges and emotes to use when I stream, as well as members-only watch parties. Both those links are in the description. Say hello to the internet, Jeremy.
Hello to the internet.